Welcome back to another BPL Book Talk. I'm Sam Helmick, your Public Services Manager, and I thought I would just share a couple of nonfiction titles that I've enjoyed from the Burlington Public Library's collection in the last couple of weeks. It's really exciting to see how much fiction is going out the door at the Burlington Public Library. In fact, in the first half of 2020, fiction sales have gone up 31%, but nonfiction has been mostly like crafts and cooking, which is absolutely wonderful, but I didn't want you to miss some of these gems that are still available for checkout today. My first one is by Karen Casey, who was the author of Each Day a New Beginning. And why I really like this book is because it's incredibly positive. It's called The 20 Things I Know for Sure, Principles for Cultivating a Peaceful Life. So each chapter is just a couple of pages about what you can do to cultivate a peaceful life, including things like never, insisting on being right and just kind of letting go of being right, or things like striving to be truly helpful to people. So it gives you some insight on things that you feel like you have been doing right possibly all along, but just gives you a bit more context to who you are and how you can be peaceful and happy in accomplishing what you're trying to do in your life. It has a nice little calming cup of tea, and so I enjoyed this with a cup of tea and recommend that highly for you. We could almost do a tea pairing if you have any questions about that when you come to check it out. I had chamomile, so. The next one is called The Elephant in the Room, One Fat Man's Quest to Get Smaller in a Growing America by Tomlinson. And I really like this book for a few reasons. The first one is a few of us have gained our COVID-15 or our freshman 15 during this time of flattening the curve and staying at home and a little bit less active. But also, I like the fact that it's from a male perspective. We have a lot of literature on how we have expectations for the female body, and a lot of female authors who talk about that struggle in the United States. But this was a really reflective and personal conversation by Tomlinson. And what I really liked about it was that it was kind of written in a journalistic style. So we begin the journey clear back in 2014 on New Year's Eve. I weigh 460 pounds. Those are the hardest words I've had to write. Nobody knows that number, not my wife, not my doctor, not my closest friends. It feels like confessing a crime. And so not only does he come to terms with his physical health, but he comes to terms with the expectations that society is placing on all Americans, but also like the nature of America and our industries and how we supersize everything, and how it's incredibly difficult sometimes to find that right size and find that right journey for you in America. So I love this. I think it's a really great supportive book for those who may not feel represented with this in this type of literature for this topic. So this is in our adult nonfiction, and I recommend you check it out. Our third book is by Buster Benson. The cover grabbed me. It's really fun, and it's called Why Are We Yelling? The Art of Productive Disagreement. And again, this seems like a timely topic, whether you're on social media or you're having the opportunity to talk in person or over the phone. Talking about productive discourse and how disagreement is wonderful as long as it's getting us somewhere, and we're all learning together and thinking out loud together and growing. And so I thought it was an absolute wonderful book that kind of broke down different ways that we can approach conversations, whether it's trying to find a solution or an argument together, even when we're on opposite sides of the spectrum of the discussion, or if it's trying to ask questions that will lead to surprising answers, not lead to answers that then we can respond to because we already have a response prepared for those answers. So like speaking to hear instead of speaking to respond or to cajole. I really like this breakdown in a later chapter, and it talks about like different strategies, including like depending on context to be understood. We have a limited capacity to notice and remember things, so we use the current context to help inform what we should be paying attention to. This is very good when we all feel overwhelmed with information overload. Strategy 2 is accept what comes to mind. Things that we recently thought about or have been exposed to are primed in our heads and easy to access than the things we haven't thought about in a while. So just sort of thinking about your mental Rolodex or pulling out those dusty files from long memories that you learned long ago and allowing them to be part of the conversation by pausing and slowing down and just thinking about things holistically. Strategy 3 is amplifying the bizarre. Our brains boost the importance of things that are unusual or surprising because they are most likely to be important. The bizarre things could be opportunities or threats. So that headline, that clickbait title on these articles that we read, these are the things that stick to us, but then the salient data that gives the context and the causality is usually buried like 20 paragraphs below. So it's easy to remember a headline, but it's harder to remember those statistics that build the foundation of the article. So just sort of thinking about that when you present information in an argument. Strategy 4 is notice the new and different. When something new shows up or something changes, our brains call that out to us because it might be important. In addition to the change, we notice the direction of the change, which helps us figure out if it's good or bad. So just acknowledging change, understanding that it's the point of arguments is to learn, and then to also possibly engage and help somebody else learn, and to just, accept change as it comes so that you can test the wind and see what direction that change is headed, good or bad. Our last strategy is seek takeaways. So when we talk to each other and are having discourse online, arguments, to reduce the amount of information that we have to think about, we pay attention only to the parts that we think we'll need to remember later. So helping folks that you're discussing, giving them those like bullet points, those quick references, those quick ideas that are like your elevator pitch for the argument. So I thought, wow, this is a really great way for me to conduct myself in person, online, when I'm thinking about disagreements that I have to have. Just kind of how can I help myself speak better, and how can I help folks listen and hear, and then feel heard. So again, this is in the new nonfiction section in adults, and it's 158.2 by Buster Benson. Our last book is called Balancing Life and Technology in a Digital World. It's by Doreen Dodgen-Magee, and it's called Device. And what I really liked about Device is that right now we have some idle time. And so this book not only gives us some ideas on how we can use technology and balance that with our life to utilize it very well. So when I'm washing the dishes or I have a commute, I could be listening to podcasts, I could be listening to things on Khan Academy and upping my skills. But it also talks about realizing that like family time isn't idle time and work time isn't idle time, and it's okay to take those devices and just put them in a drawer for a little while. And so most of the books I've read on this topic have always talked about that balance, but then it focuses on removing technology. And what I really liked about this approach in this book was that it talks about how technology and our body and our society are all incorporated now. And so finding a balance that actually works and helps us to level up on our education and our quality of life is a really great idea. So these have been a few nonfiction titles. I really hope that you enjoy them, or you share what you've been reading, and we can talk about that too in the comments below. If you have any questions about these books, or if you'd like to check out anything else we have at the library, we would absolutely love to see you. Take care.